The foundational era. It's kind of wild to think there was a time when football literally didn't exist. There were no shirts, no chants, and no 90th minute winners. It was just random folks kicking leather lumps around muddy fields. Then, in 1863, some guys in a London pub decided enough was enough and wrote the first proper rulebook. That was the spark. From there, it spread like wildfire. Clubs popped up everywhere, and the game itself was madly attacking back then. Imagine defenders barely defending, and everyone bombing forward in a 2-3-5 shape, chasing goals for fun. Nobody cared about pressing or keeping shape. It was chaotic and ridiculously entertaining. And this was the period where the FA Cup kicked off too, which sounds normal now, but back then it was revolutionary. Suddenly there was something to win, and bragging rights became real. Even though the pitches were shocking and tactics were basically kick and rush, it set football on its path to becoming something the whole planet would fall in love with. Then came the bit people don't talk about enough, pre-WW2 era. These were the years between the two world wars, when football got smarter. Enter Herbert Chapman, the man who looked at the chaos and thought, we can actually organize this. His WM formation basically changed how teams defended and attacked forever. By this time, the formation changed to 3 players at the back instead of 2, and it was more balanced, more disciplined, but still left room for wingers to fly. And it wasn't just about tactics. This was when football became really professional. Players weren't just local lads anymore, and transfers started to matter. The first World Cups happened too, and South America rocked up and showed Europe what flair really looked like. Uruguay won the very first one in 1930, and Italy bagged 2 before the war stopped everything in its tracks. Looking back, it's weirdly modern. There were new tactics, international tournaments, and even early signs of the club versus country debate. Shame it had to pause, but what came after took football to a different galaxy. Post-war Golden Age. After World War II, football wasn't just back. It felt bigger than ever. People really needed it. Really needed it. Stadiums were packed, and the vibe was raw, in fact, almost emotional. Teams like Hungary's mighty Magyars started showing the world what it meant to play like a team. And over in Brazil, they had Pelé, who was still a teenager, but already looking like he was born to embarrass defenders. Europe created the European Cup in 1955 too, which was huge. For the first time, the best clubs didn't just rule at home, they got to prove it on the continent. Real Madrid became the kings of this new stage, and the sport felt global in a way it hadn't before. Football back then had this beautiful mix of innocence and innovation. The boots were heavy, and the balls were like bricks, but what the players did with them was unreal. The Brazilian Samba, early modern era. If you could bottle joy and sell it, you'd call it Brazilian football in the late 50s and 60s. They didn't just play to win, they played to dance. Brazil winning the World Cups in 1958 and 1962 wasn't just about trophies. It changed how people saw football. Pelé became the face of the sport, but he wasn't alone. Players like Garrincha and Didi were making their mark also. It was the first time the world realized football could look beautiful and ruthless at the same time. And it wasn't all samba beats and step-overs. European clubs were doing serious damage too. Benfica had Eusebio tearing it up, and Real Madrid were still winning everything that mattered. Formations evolved too. Teams moved from the wild 4-2-4 to more balanced 4-3-3 shapes. Football got smarter, but it never lost its flair. And for fans, it was the era that proved the game could be an art form, not just a fight. The total football era. Total football sounds like something out of a textbook, but it was actually ridiculously cool. Imagine a team where the striker drops deep to build play. The defender charges forward like a midfielder, and everyone knows exactly where to move. That was Ajax and the Netherlands in the early 70s, led by Johan Cruyff. He wasn't just skillful, he thought about the game differently. Suddenly, positions weren't cages, they were starting points. Players switched, covered, and pressed like crazy. Watching them must have felt like seeing the future, and it worked. Ajax cleaned up in Europe, and the Dutch national team reached 2 World Cup finals playing this way. Even teams that didn't copy them directly started thinking more about space and movement. However, the twist is that it didn't last too long because it was too intense to keep up, but it left a mark. The Katanacio and Pragmatic Era. This was when football swung the other way. They kicked out endless pressing and swapping positions, and brought in the art of defending. Italian teams mastered this with Catenaccio, a system built around the sweeper mopping up behind tight markers. It sounds boring, but honestly, it was genius in its own way. Clubs like Inter and AC Milan turned defending into an art and made it look calm under pressure while nicking goals on the break. And then you had players who brought the spark back. Players like Platini when he was at Juventus, and Maradona at Napoli. English clubs had their time too, but the Heysel disaster in '85 meant they got banned from Europe until the early '90s, which changed the whole balance. Watching back, the '80s look scrappy and physical, but there was a rawness and an edge that's hard to fake. It wasn't always pretty, but it made moments of magic stand out even more. Maradona's Era. If you ask anyone what football felt like in the late '80s, most people just say one word: Maradona. It wasn't just his talent, it was how everything seemed to orbit around him. At Napoli, he turned them into this winning beast. I mean, 2 Serie A titles, a UEFA Cup, and a city that treated him like a living god. And of course, there was the 1986 World Cup where the Hand of God goal got all the headlines. But the other goal he scored against England in that game was such a moment. The sport was defensive and rough back then, and he still made it look effortless. Then after this, football turned into big business for real. The commercial boom in Galacticos Era. The Bosman ruling in 1996 changed everything. Suddenly, players could move for free at the end of their contracts, and that kicked off a transfer revolution. The Champions League rebrand made it a global TV show and not just a European trophy. And no club played the celebrity game better than Real Madrid's Galacticos. Imagine having Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, and Beckham all turning up to training in the same week. It was insane, and it worked, kind of. They sold shirts worldwide, played eye-catching football, but didn't always win everything. Meanwhile, the Premier League found its own way to the spotlight, becoming the league everyone watched, with new stadiums, Sky Sports money, and foreign stars. For the first time, footballers weren't just athletes. They were brands. People started following players as much as clubs, and whether you liked it or not, there was no going back. The Tiki-Taka Era. You know those 5-a-side games where it feels like you never touch the ball because one team passes forever? That was pretty much what Guardiola's Barcelona did to everyone else, but on the biggest stage possible. And it wasn't only Barca. Spain's national team did it too, and they won Euro 2008, World Cup 2010, and Euro 2012 playing basically the same way. For about 7 years, it felt like football had one answer to everything: pass more, control the game, suffocate the opposition. They turned the false nine from a quirky idea into a cheat code. The Messi Ronaldo Era. It's weird to think we all lived through an era we'll probably never see again. These two players, with totally different styles, both breaking record after record, year after year. Messi felt like someone who was born with a ball stuck to his foot, drifting past defenders like they weren't even there. Ronaldo was the machine with his headers, free kicks, step-overs, and that insane leap. And what made it unreal was that they played at the same time, pushing each other season after season. Every weekend, it felt like you had to check what the other one had done. I mean, 11 Ballon d'Ors between them in 12 years is enough proof of their greatness. Even people who didn't watch football knew their names. And it made La Liga the center of the football universe for over a decade. It wasn't just stats either. It was moments you'd remember years later. This era made the word GOAT part of normal conversation. The gegenpressing, counter-pressing era. While Messi and Ronaldo were setting scoreboards on fire, something else was cooking on the tactical whiteboards. Klopp's Dortmund and then Liverpool showed what it meant to attack the moment you lost the ball. Instead of dropping back, the whole team swarmed forward to win it back high up the pitch. Guardiola had his own version too. It was pressing, but with an obsession for positioning. It changed the vibe completely. Suddenly, the most exciting teams weren't always the ones with the fanciest dribblers, but the ones who pressed with insane intensity. Football got faster, more organized, and frankly, more tiring to watch if you tried to keep track of everyone's runs. And you saw how it worked in trophies because Klopp's Liverpool won the Champions League, and Guardiola's Man City dominated the Premier League. Even teams with less money copied bits of it. And yeah, it made defending look almost cool again, but only if it started from the front. A hypermodern, data-driven era. Right now, it feels like football is evolving quicker than ever. Clubs have entire analytics teams crunching numbers on every pass, run, and corner routine. Players wear trackers so coaches can measure exactly how fast they sprint in training. Scouts watch teenagers on the other side of the world before they even get a pro contract. Tactically, it's like a buffet of ideas. Ideas like inverted fullbacks, box midfields, goalkeepers acting as playmakers, and crazy build-up patterns. Even teams with mid-table budgets play with systems that would have sounded ridiculous 20 years ago. And the game itself is faster and more intense, with everyone pressing and moving constantly. It's mad, but it's also brilliant, because under all the data, fancy graphics, and tactical jargon, it's still about 11 players trying to score more than the other lot. And that part will never change, no matter how futuristic it gets. Funny thing is, no matter how many eras come and go, it still feels like we're all just chasing that same buzz every weekend. And if you enjoyed this trip through football history and want more amazing football stories such as this, drop a like, share it with someone, and let me know which era you wish you could see live. Catch you in the next one.